Really glad you're here tonight. My name is Scott Harker, and I'm a certified gut health specialist. And we're just really glad that you're here to join us this evening. I've got two special guests here tonight, Alan Kashner and Wayne Schulten. Hey, guys, glad you could join us tonight.
And thanks, Scott.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're here tonight to talk about something very special. And I can't wait for you to hear their stories and share my story with you tonight. And if you are dealing with stubborn weight, brain fog, high blood pressure, blood sugar issues, inflammation, and you just feel like your body's getting older, right? You're at the right place tonight because we're going to share something that is transformational tonight. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting with the stories you're going to hear and the information we're going to share with you tonight. So hang on. And what I'd like to do while I'm doing something here technical, if you're joining us, what I would like you to do is take a moment. And because this is really, if you think somebody could benefit from this, I want you to tag somebody and or text them and have them join our live, and then also put in the chat where you're from. And I apologize here. I'm having a little bit of technical issue. And there we go. We're live on my Facebook page. So I just want to make certain that was working. So take a moment and just tag someone in Facebook. Also tonight, we are on YouTube and we are on Rumble. So please feel free to comment in those channels as well. And if you're watching this as a recording, make sure you go ahead and comment, because we're going to be looking at those comments. Be glad to answer your questions. See what you have to say, and then also drop in the chat where you're from tonight, because we'd like to see where everybody's watching from and all over the country, because we're broadcasting everywhere tonight. All right, so let's go ahead and get going. Let me do something here, and I want you to do something for a moment and take a moment and look at this slide that we've got up here. There's a lot of symptoms that you see up here, or medical conditions that people are dealing with. Obesity, that weight around the middle that you maybe can't get rid of. Arthritis, you've been told you got it because you're just getting older. And tonight, I hope we're going to debunk that myth with you. Type 2 diabetes, maybe ED, PCOS, mood swings, heart disease. You can read all of these things here in this circle tonight. But what if I told you that all of these are linked? You know, there is a doctor for almost every one of these things. And then we've got other things that I could have put up there, but my circle had been too big for the screen, like IBS, ulcerative colitis, psoriasis. But all of these things are linked, and there's a doctor for almost every one of these, right? We've got cardiologists, we've got neurologists, we got endocrinologists. And so all the different doctors, but these are all linked to one thing, and that is called insulin resistance, right? And most of the time, we don't see this, and we're not told that this is tied together, all right? Tonight's live is not about willpower, and it's not about laziness if you're having trouble getting rid of these things. This is about a hormone called insulin, and once you hear what it's all about tonight, I don't think you're going to be able to unhear it and unsee it. So let me just show you a little bit. Before we talk about insulin resistance, I want you to really understand what insulin resistance is. Drop in the chat if you've heard what insulin resistance is. I'd like to know where it's at and just see where our audience is at tonight. But insulin is produced by a small organ right behind the stomach, right? And it's called the pancreas. And it's not very big. The pancreas isn't very big, but it has a massive job, okay? And it produces insulin. So every time we eat, we get an insulin response because our food is turned into sugar, glucose. And this is what insulin does for us. Insulin is a hormone, and it's produced, like I said, by the pancreas that acts as the key to unlock your cells so sugar can enter and be used for energy. And that is a main big function that we're going to talk about tonight, of the importance of insulin. And that, like I said, this is really a hormone discussion tonight. So insulin resistance is when the key, or this hormone, isn't necessarily working appropriately or working right. And so let me show you what it is. So when we are insulin resistant, our cells are really basically starving. You see on the left-hand side of your screen, the screen with the normal. normal one is. Insulin acts as the key when we have sugar in our bloodstream, and basically it opens the door and allows the glucose to enter into the cell. Energy is produced, our mitochondria is fed, we get stable blood sugar, and you've got energy. But when we're insulin resistant, our cells start starving. That key is not working as well. The door doesn't open quite as wide, right? The signal's blocked, glucose stays in the blood. Cells basically, they're starving for energy, and this is insulin resistance. And this is basically when that insulin signal is broken. Okay, so what I would like to do is, before I go to Wayne here this evening, I just want to just let you know that we're going to be talking about a protocol. And let me take it off this screen here for a moment. We're going to be talking about a protocol that we have used, and we're all going to share our stories tonight. A protocol that helps us with insulin resistance and starts to reverse that, and has helped us feel great. So first, I want to introduce to you Wayne Shelton. Wayne, it's been a bit since you've been on a live with me. I don't know, what, couple, 3 months?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And so just really excited to have everybody hear your story about what it looked like when you were insulin resistant, and now as you're starting to heal from the inside out, what that's looked like. And so if you could tonight, just share with the audience what you look like, in terms of how you felt, what was going on before the protocol and after you started using the protocol, and just share with the team. So thank you very much for coming tonight.
You bet. Thanks, Scott. A pleasure to be with you tonight. Real quick, we'll go back a little ways. I am a little background. I am a 2-time heart attack survivor. I had my first heart attack probably 10 years ago. I had another worse widowmaker heart attack back in September 3 years ago, where I ended up with a quadruple bypass surgery. So I was not really, you wouldn't say I really was in a picture of health. Thanks to God and some fabulous surgeons, they put me back together, and I am thankful that I'm here, not knowing why I was saved from that. But I think now, knowing what I know now, I know why I'm still here. So that's where I was, and we found this protocol only through a good friend of ours, Amy Van Houten. My wife was working at a retirement home and saw Amy's mom, who she hadn't seen for quite a while, and said, "Wow, what happened to you?" And we were looking for Sandy because Sandy was on the synthetic shot, and she was sick 2 days a week, spending $500 a month, not losing any weight to speak of. So we were searching. Well, Sandy saw Amy's mom, and Amy says, "Well, yeah, you got to meet my daughter, Amy." So we met with Amy, and then Amy kind of explained what insulin resistance was, and it didn't sink in right away, but I was very intrigued with what was going on. And so I said, "Hey, for what it would cost for both of us to be on, it was way less than what it was going to cost for just her to be on the shot." I said, "We're going to give it a shot." I thought if I could lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, I wasn't obese, but I thought, that'd probably be okay. And so we both went on it. So amazed that, we all talk about, I'm sure both of you would talk about too, this is not a weight loss drug by any means. It's our only side effect to our protocol is that you actually lose weight. A lot of people lose weight, but within 4 days, I noticed that my knees didn't hurt anymore. I've had a lot of inflammation. I've years of growing up on the farm and jumping on and off tractors and wagons and stuff. My knees are bone on bone. I have no cartilage left, and I was thinking about getting knee replacement surgery because my knees hurt all the time. And all of a sudden, my knee pain was gone, and that was just totally. It just felt different. We both felt that there was something going on in our bodies that was changing. So within a week already, we noticed a big change as far as that goes. My heart doctor had told me after I got out of surgery that if I didn't want to see him again, I would have to spend 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day in a gym for the rest of my life, and I would never have to have my chest cracked open again like I did. And I did not want that to happen because that is no fun at all. That's nasty. So anyway, I did. I honored that. So we did it. We worked out. But the problem is with my inflammation in my knees is my knees would hurt so bad by the time I got home from working out, I'd have to ice my knees for the night to get up the next morning to go back to the gym to have my knees hurt again. And it was just a vicious cycle. But that's one thing. One of the first things we noticed was that. And then the energy level just skyrocketed. My sleep was so much better. Woke up refreshed, ready to go to work. Well, then, because of my, metabolic history, I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Um, I no longer take in my blood pressure medicine. My year ago when we started this, before I started this, I have a medical card, a CDL, and my doctor said, Wayne, if you don't get your blood pressure under control, you won't be able to have a CDL anymore. That's commercial driver's license and you have to have a medical card every year to comply with the DOT. So this really helped with that. I was at that time, I was running in the 160, 170 range. Now my resting heart rate's in the low 120s every night. And we're off, and I'm off my medicine that I was on. Cholesterol, I'm off my cholesterol meds. Um, I no longer take that. Acid reflux, I've been on acid reflux pills for 30 years. I haven't taken one since we started the protocol in August. Um, well, that's lying. If we have a really spicy food or something once in a while, I will take one yet at night. But for the most part, I was on two of those pills every day, and I'm off now. Um, Probably. So we started realizing really fast that this whole thing was not a weight loss program. It's all about health. I was actually feeling quite old after my surgery, being 65, 66 at that point in time. I honestly thought, you know, about time to put me out to pasture. They fixed me up, but just put me out to pasture and I can play with the horses in the grass. And then when I drop dead, that's the way it's going to be for me. But boy, was I actually, I finally found a new lease on life with this protocol. It really, it's called aging in reverse. And, it's really amazing, that, just, a drink like this and a fiber product that we take with our meals could change that so much, but it really has. It has totally changed my life, my wife's life. And one of the really neat things that I really was amazed with is I was in a hospital for cellulitis for a couple of days in my face over Halloween. After that, I had to go see my PCP. He just wanted to do a checkup on me, and he hadn't seen me since we started the protocol. And I walked into his office, and he said, "Whoa," he said, "Wayne," he said, "Where's the other half of you?" Because he hadn't seen me, and I lost 35 pounds in 3 months. There's my before and after picture, and so I'd lost 35 pounds, and I was feeling good. And I said, "Well, I don't know what you're going to think of this, but we're on a new health protocol that has just totally changed our lives, and we're just going to continue it." And he said, "Boy," he said, "Yeah, you're looking good. Let's look at your blood work." And we pulled my blood panels, and he was going through them. He said, "Yeah, your cholesterol is doing better." And of course, my blood pressure was down anyway. And what really remarkable, what really got him as we got to my kidney function. And I've been in stage 3 kidney failure for probably about 5 years, and the doctors are careful what kind of medicines I could have because of my kidney failure. Um, so he's always been watching that, but he was just shocked. He said, "Wayne, I don't know what's going on, but your kidney function has turned around and is getting better." He said, "That just doesn't happen." He said, I haven't seen that before, that your kidney function actually improves." And so he was pretty much says, "I don't know what you're doing." He said, but just keep doing what you're doing." So that was just amazing to me, that my blood panels are getting better. And just a little side note with Sandy, um, she was also in stage 3 kidney failure, and she went into her doctor at the first of the year, and she went from stage 3 kidney failure to normal kidney function in 5 months. So I mean, her doctor was just amazed. It's the same, and her triglycerides went from 185 to 85 in 4 months.
Wow.
And there again, the doctor says this is just incredible. It's unbelievable. So, you know, truth be told, I mean, this program has just given me a new lease on life. And you know, I see so many. I see a lot of people my age. I just turned 69 last week, and I see a lot of friends of mine and people my age at church or wherever starting to get debilitating diseases. You know, they just can't function like they did, aches and pains, diabetes. You know, all these things are taking their quality of life away, not necessarily quantity of quality. Um, and that's what it's all about for me. I'm sharing this with whoever I can, as many people as I can, as fast as I can, because I am looking at quality of life along with quantity of life. I feel I'm aging reverse. I feel 55 instead of 70. And I just can't wait to share that with as many people as I can. It's an amazing protocol. And we spent the last couple of days at a truck show, meeting people. And it's just so amazing when you start talking with people about, oh yeah, I have this, I have that, I'm fatigued, you know, I've got diabetes. I'm pre-diabetic. I got high blood pressure, and it's huge for the CDL. The truck. I targeted that because of the truck drivers and the trucking industry, because we had on our little sign, are you worried about your CDL? And you can't believe the number of people that said, yeah, we are. Sleep apnea. I forgot about that one. My sleep apnea is gone. That's a big one for the CDL now, and keeping your CDL. So it was a great weekend to meet people, and they could share their struggles, and we just share what we have, and it's up to them now if they wanna take it on. But it's just an amazing protocol.
That's awesome, Wayne. Thank you so much for that story. You've said it multiple times that this really isn't a weight loss protocol, but what an awesome side effect, right, of this
Right,
protocol is all these things that start to heal from the inside out. Seeing lower blood
right,
pressure, lower cholesterol, right? Yeah, your kidney disease has started to reverse, right? So those are awesome side effects. Yeah, if
yeah,
you're on here tonight, right?
yeah,
If you have any of those things that we talked about earlier, and if you're just joining this live or you're watching the replay, we're here tonight sharing with you a protocol that we have all used. We're sharing with you tonight that's helping us with insulin resistance and things that have to deal with insulin resistance, such as weight gain, brain fog, mood issues, things that go on with the gut, right? And
yeah.
that's why we're here tonight, is sharing that. And
You
Wayne,
bet.
you were saying, why am I here? Well, I know why you're here, and I'm glad, because if you weren't, I'd have never got to meet you. So I'm so
Yeah,
glad
yeah,
you're here, and
yeah.
it's
Thank
been
you.
so exciting to hear your story. Wayne's been sharing this with hundreds and hundreds of people in the last several months that I've got to know him, and out there helping just help making lives a lot better. And so I want to share with you something before we talk to Alan and his awesome story here. But I want to kind of take you through something that we were never really taught to think about, right? Um, and I'm going to explain this graphic up here for you. But this graphic represents eating all the time. If you're on this chat, you've probably, or if you've on this live tonight, you've heard probably many times, eat every 2 to 3 hours. Maybe eat 6 to 8 small meals a day to keep your metabolism just charged up. But every time we eat, even when we eat something small, our insulin goes up. All right, and when insulin is up, we stay in fat storage mode or storage mode. And the only way that we ever get out of that is to get the insulin to come down. So when we eat breakfast, insulin spike, snack in the morning, insulin spike, lunch spike, snack spike, dinner spike, snack spike. We get that, right? And so all the time we've been taught to eat these small meals all the time. But when our insulin is high again, you're going to hear that multiple times. And you probably get tired of us hearing that. But this is so important to understand what's going on with our body. Basically, when that insulin's high, our cells quit listening to that insulin, and that is insulin resistance. And that's a little bit different way that I explained it earlier, but I really want you to understand that. But then that lock is locked on that vault of fat, and we can't ever get that fat burned up if we can't get our insulin low. So, with the tools that we use, we talk about time based eating, and we're going to get in that a little bit more later and explain how that ties into this protocol. But keep that in mind, if insulin's high, we're stuck in fat storage mode, and we need to get the window where the spot where the time between our spikes is a lot wider, so we give our body time to rest. Okay. And so that's really, real important for us to start to get metabolically healthy. Now I want to introduce to you good friend Alan Kashner, who introduced me to this protocol. I have so much to thank Alan for in sharing this. He's been sharing this protocol in helping people get more metabolically health for, I don't know, for several years now. He's got a tremendous story, and just want Alan to share his story, what things look like before and after using this protocol. So Alan, thank you for joining us tonight, and excited you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, before I ran into this protocol, I I was struggling. I had been diabetic for 20 years before I ran into this, and I was on 4 different diabetes meds, and my A1C was still too high. I had to be months away from getting on insulin shots. I mean, when you're on 4 diabetes meds, I mean, you can't get it under control. That's not a good place to be. Um, all my stuff, I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, acid reflux. You know, from age 40 on is where I was, became diabetic, and I just ballooned up to 360 pounds. Picture of health, like you had mentioned, Wayne. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. And my doctor, I mean, he wanted me to have bariatric surgery where they cut away 3/4 of your stomach and sew it back together. And I'm like, no, I'm going to figure this out, and like a lot of us, I mean, we go from diet to diet to diet, and just praying that the next one works, and they don't. You might get some success, then you gain it back, or it's just beating my head against the wall. And one thing I didn't realize then, and Scott just touched on this, when your insulin levels are high, it's telling your body to store fat, don't burn it. Well, good luck exercising or going on a diet if your insulin levels are stuck in high. And 80 to 90% of us are there. And I was right there included. So, I mean, he kept after me to have this bariatric surgery. And I'm like, no, I'm going to figure this out. But I couldn't figure it out. You know what I mean? It's when you get to that point where I just felt I'm going to die young and there's not a dang thing I can do about it. I mean, it's frustrating. And I think sounds like you were kind of getting there, Wayne, where it's just, my gosh, 2 heart attacks and everything else.
Yeah.
And I have a great wife, 2 great kids, 6 grandkids. I want to be around. I just didn't know how to get there, So I prayed for a solution, and it came shortly after from a friend of mine sharing this with me. And he was not the picture of health. I mean, he had taken, I forget what it was, 30,000 insulin shots himself. He was diabetic, worse than I was. But he was seeing results pretty quickly. And, I mean, I was like, why in the world would I try 100th and first thing when the other 100 things didn't work? But my wife and I thought, well, we're going to give it a shot. So we both jumped on this. And wow, I mean, I was just blown away. I mean, I was able to get off all 4 diabetes meds and now a non-diabetic range. I was able to, like all my blood work. I mean, my triglycerides dropped, cholesterol. I got off my cholesterol med. I got off my acid reflux med. My fatty liver reversed. And when I fixed the things that we're talking about this, and I know we haven't gotten into a lot of detail yet, but I lost 72 pounds. I was trying to do that for a decade. Couldn't do it, So, it's crazy. My wife, she gets on this with me too. She lost 38 pounds. But the key thing with her, like you mentioned with you guys, Wayne, She had kidney disease, stage 3A, for the last 3 years consistently. And scared to death about that, obviously. I mean, kind of need your kidneys. So for those that don't understand the scale, I mean, you got a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is kidney failure and dialysis. Don't want to be there. She's 3/5 of the way down that scale for the last 3 years on this protocol. We weren't even expecting this, to be honest, but 7 weeks after starting the protocol, and we followed it perfectly, she had an appointment with her kidney specialist. So she goes in there and they do all their testing and everything. And they said, I don't know what you're doing, but you virtually no longer have kidney disease.
Yeah,
She's
amazing.
been in for multiple tests over the last couple of years. No kidney disease. I mean, we'll get into more, but you need to reverse insulin resistance, get your gut health right, and we'll talk about time-based eating. That helps us one little piece, but there's other tools that make this protocol crazy, amazing. So
Awesome, Alan. That's a great story, and I've heard that many times. But that your story and what you've shared, and you sharing with people is just really inspiring. Thank you for that.
also up my sleep apnea. I forgot to mention that one too. No more machine. I had it for 15 years and it's in the garbage.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
awesome. Yeah.
I gave mine away, so
Yeah.
mine's gone
Yeah.
too.
Probably should have done that, but
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, tonight, if you think about this, we didn't get here, in just a very short period of time. This insulin resistance happens after years of constant stimulation. And this gauge on here that I'm just showing this picture of tonight represents our system under stress. And when we're insulin resistant, we're under stress. And every time we refine carbs, snack constantly, eat late at night, right? Live under that constant stress and don't sleep well, our insulin spikes. And when insulin spikes and stays elevated long enough, the system goes into overload. And, our body was never meant to really stay in storage mode all the time. It was designed to cycle, to burn and then do some storage and then burn. But when that insulin never drops, we stay in that storage mode. Alan, and Wayne, I would just like to take a few minutes, and we've got some slides here, and I know, Alan, you want to share some things around that. Let's talk about, for a few minutes, how we got there. People weren't always this way. If you look, there's been a trend that's happened over time. And if you don't mind sharing with us, you're really good at sharing that piece. I'd like you to share with our audience tonight how we really got there, because it didn't happen just one day we woke up and we were insulin resistant. It didn't wake up one day we just ate a cookie or a piece of cake and voila, we're insulin resistant, right? It happened.
Right. Yeah, if you look back in the 1970s and you look at the charts of all this stuff, all of a sudden, I mean, we've been climbing the last 50 years in obesity, diabetes, pretty much everything that was on that first list you had there is skyrocketing. And like you're saying, why in the world is that? And there's three things that I like to talk about. And if you wouldn't mind pulling up the first slide there, but the food industry is adding sugar by 100 different names to all of our food. And some of it, we recognize, but dextrin, ethyl maltol, Florida crystals. I mean, I don't know what the heck that stuff is, and they have the ability to put multiple ones of these in the label, so they don't have to put sugar first. If they just labeled it as sugar, it'd be way up in the list. But they have all these creative names for sugar these days. And if you look at 74% of packaged foods have added sugar. Anything with a barcode or a bag, I mean, is probably not our best choice in a grocery store. But man, we've been put down that primrose path there, And they talk about how sugar is 8 times more addictive by the studies than cocaine. And we all have heard about that ramification. Number two, the food industry is stripping the fiber out of our food, the protective fiber. You take wheat, for instance, like in the top row there, they strip out the wheat bran fiber, and we're left with stuff like white bread, anything with, flour and starch spikes the heck out of your glucose immediately too, because it can get in your bloodstream really, really fast. You take an apple, God wrapped it in protective fiber, but they strip all that stuff out, and we're left with diabetes in a glass. I mean, sugar water. I mean, apple juice. I mean, it's nuts. But that's the worst thing you can do. It's just you'd have to, eat 3, 4 apples to have that one juice. If most people won't just sit down and eat 3, 4 apples. Why? Because you'd be full because of the fiber. Fiber has some really important properties to it. Number one, it helps us feel fuller. If you can go to the next slide there, Scott. Helps us feel fuller so we don't overeat. Helps us feel fuller longer so we don't have to eat 2 hours later. Number two, fiber lowers our glucose and insulin spike. If you ate a pizza by itself, like that top line, your glucose is going to spike. But if you put a salad before eating the pizza, you will lower your glucose and insulin spike. Most people don't realize that. Number three, fiber feeds the healthy bacteria in your gut to get the balance in your gut. And Scott can go into a whole bunch of that stuff as a certified gut health specialist. But we need that balance so the right things happen to get rid of inflammation in our body. It fixes many, many things. So, and number four, it lowers your triglycerides. In 2.5 months, I had my first blood test. My triglycerides dropped from 166 down to 98. That's not just a fluke. Fiber is really, really our friend, so. And number three, if you look at why things are spiking, you have our government in their infinite wisdom, throwing us guidelines on what to do. Everybody remembers this food pyramid, right? Look at that bottom layer. They recommend we have 6 to 11 servings of carbs per day. No wonder we're all getting sick, right? So the result of these three things, and there's likely a few more, but number one, only 7% of us are metabolically healthy. That is a crazy low number, right? And that's great for the 7%. They're metabolically flexible. They can switch back and forth from burning carbs to burning fat. But 93% of us, or a really good portion of us, are in worsening stages of insulin resistance. Metabolic inflexibility, where we struggle to switch over to burning fat. Metabolic syndrome, which is usually like 3 or 4 different things like high triglycerides, high blood pressure, too much weight around your midriff. And then a lot of us type 2 diabetes. The reality is that around 80 to 90% of us are insulin resistant. That's the next slide, Scott. So, he had showed a different set of stuff that's very similar to this, but, these are all symptoms of insulin resistance. And the pharmaceutical and medical industry, they're more than happy to give you meds that treat the symptom. They don't fix insulin resistance. So let's say you have high blood pressure, for instance, you go off and they give you a med. Typically will bring down your high blood pressure, have all kinds we help people get away from. It does not fix this, that it then morphs off into something else. Maybe it's inability to lose weight. Maybe it's anxiety and depression, or maybe it's inflammation. And they'll give you another med for that. I think the medical system and the pharmaceutical, they do great with key things like surgeries and different things that we need. But in the general medicine thing, and some of it is not probably their fault either. You got to admit, we're not, at least me, in the beginning of this, I thought meds are my friend, man. That's the answer, man. I can take those and I can do whatever the heck I want. And look where it got me, I wasn't your best person that wanted to eat healthy, but I had to figure something out here, and change some things. So, if we, and the second result here, the first one we talked about is 80 to 90% of us are diabetic, or only 7% of us are metabolically healthy. But today, only 5% of us are getting enough fiber. And it's not a big surprise because we just talked about how the food industry is stripping the fiber out of our food. We need to get back and take control of our health, fix these 2 issues, insulin resistance, gut health, so we can fix a myriad of things to do that. And this protocol is very, very effective at doing that.
And simple to use as well. And we're going to talk
Yeah.
about that here in a few moments. So tonight, folks, we're not talking about something that's complicated, something that we've used, built up over time, and we've, these issues didn't happen overnight. But we're going to show you here in a few moments a protocol that it's easy to use, and that allows us to basically start to heal from the inside out. Well, I'm going to take a moment and just share my testimony as well as my wife. She doesn't care if I do that. She's at the guitar lessons with my daughter tonight as she's learning how to play the guitar. And
Nice.
so she's not able to join us. But I just wanted to share a little bit about our family and how this protocol's impacted us. First, I just got to say again, thanks to Alan, because Alan is the one who shared this protocol with my family and I. I'm a certified gut and metabolic health specialist, and the reason I bring that up is because this is what we're talking about tonight. In my classes and the things that I'd studied, actually, I wasn't taught this so much, and that's the reason that I think that so many doctors are in the same situation, because they aren't really taught this. We fell into the same kind of myths that we're kind of busting tonight about insulin resistance and things like that. I started working with I started in gut and metabolic health because I had ulcerative colitis and needed to I was having trouble with the medication that I was on. Actually, I guess the fix was worse. The cure was worse than the disease itself, causing me a lot of problems. And my background being engineering, I wanted to get to the root cause. But I still had trouble, even though I got to where I was able to put myself in remission with ulcerative colitis. I couldn't get rid of that weight around the middle, still insulin resistance. And so when we started using this protocol that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, and these just two simple tools, I started to really feel better. And not forget the weight for just a minute and the other things that you see on here. But, I've got, at the time, I had two teenagers, and now my teenager's now a 20-year-old, but I've got my 13-year-old. And then I just, honestly, I've always been a very, very high energy type of person, and was pretty high energy compared to most folks. But I was starting to slow down, and I was starting to feel it. And when my 19-year-old, 18-year-old at the time wanted to kind of roughhouse it, I'm going to tell you, he wore me out. And now today, he's like, Dad, he goes, slow down. And my 13-year-old, I wanted to be around to be able to do things with them. And so it was so life-changing for us. And that in 16 weeks, I dropped 45 pounds. Always had a propensity for high blood pressure. Now, I wasn't on medication, but my blood pressure is back in the normal range. Inflammation, I just feel like I'm going to just say it, in my 20s. I'm 52. I've just got a lot of energy. And I also had psoriasis, and that's starting to improve. I'm not there yet, because there's a lot of other things that go with psoriasis, but it's made a big impact because psoriasis is tied to poor gut health. Sorry if you're hearing dogs bark in the background. Hopefully you don't hear that too bad. That's what happens on a live. But anyway, and then my wife, Jennifer, this is one of the reasons we started looking for this, is she started to experience pre-diabetes, and she came to me and she said, Scott, we've got to find something. I'm starting to feel neuropathy in my fingers. And Alan, you and I you've talked, and I've talked about this many times, and her energy wasn't good. But anyway, the end result of this is she was down. Actually, she was counting the other day, actually 45 pounds now. Reversed her pre-diabetes in 2 weeks. Her fasting blood sugar levels came back into a normal area. She was running around 130, high 130s, 140s, and in about 2.5 weeks, she came down into the mid to low 90s, and then later came down into the 80s. Just huge impact on our life. And we just have a lot to say for the product, is how it's made us feel. And this is why we're on here tonight, is to share this, because we want folks to feel great like we are and start to reverse some of these things. So let me just share, and we're going to spend some time talking about the protocol. We've been talking about it all night. Well, so what is this protocol? Well, there's two components to this protocol. One is a fiber, and they just come in little packets like this. And Wayne's going to share with us here in a few minutes of how we use it. But this is called Balance. And it's designed to deliver a highly functional fermentable fiber that directly feeds the beneficial gut bacteria in your gut, right? And Alan talked about that a few minutes ago, how important that your gut is. You know, your gut produces about 70% of your immune system. If you've got issues around mood, right, it's usually tied to your gut because 70 to 80% of your dopamine and serotonin are produced in your gut. And so when our gut is unhealthy, we we feel bad, right? We have the inability to fight off infections a lot of times. And when we're not producing the dopamine and serotonin we have anxiety and we can get into depression. And this tool feeds that good bacteria in your gut and starts to basically help kill off the old or the bad bacteria. And one of the things that's really interesting about it is a lot of times we have cravings, and the cravings come from the bad bacteria being greater in population than the good bacteria. And what happens is that bad bacteria thrives on sugar, the carbohydrates, and things like that. And so when we start to have cravings, the bad bacteria is sending a signal up to our brain saying, feed me the bad stuff. So tonight, if you're on here and you're having trouble with willpower and you're going, man, I just need more willpower. Folks, it isn't about willpower. It's about the hormone. It's about the signaling. It's about and it's a physical thing. And it's about our gut being in dysbiosis, meaning that we've got more bad bacteria than we have good bacteria. And this fiber, I like to call it salad in a bag. Really a little tube, because this starts to, give us the fiber that we need and starts to heal and seal that gut. Okay. So this makes us feel fuller. Okay. And then when I talk about healing and sealing it, is what it does is as it feeds the gut, it helps if you have leaky gut. And we didn't get much into that. I could do a whole master class just on leaky gut. But when our gut is inflamed and then we have bad bacteria, we get permeability in it. And that's what's causing the inflammation, meaning that as your food goes through, your digested food goes through your intestinal tract, we get little holes in our gut lining and we leak lipopolysaccharides, which is basically a fancy word for toxins, into our blood. And that's what causes our inflammation response and causes our achy joints and why we are stiff. But once we start to heal that gut, our body starts to get those toxins out of there. The other thing this product does, which is so important, is it's a gel-like matrix. And when it does that, and it's hard to see on here, but in one of the slides earlier that we showed with Alan, he was talking about that pizza, right? You get an insulin, you get this insulin response. But when you have fiber, right, and you get the insulin response, you get a glucose spike. This fiber, when you put it in your system, and we take this about 20 to 30 minutes before we eat, or you can take it right before we eat, it helps reduce that glucose spike by about 35 to 40%, depending on what you're eating and how metabolically healthy you are. It'll bring that down. Therefore, you get less of an insulin spike. Okay. And that helps us start to become more insulin sensitive. And then the other thing is, and you'll see on here, it's maybe really hard to see on the screen, but there's different studies about this. And one of them is from the Cleveland Clinic. Okay. And basically it says such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid lowering prescription drugs. It's a mouthful. And what that really means is for things like Tricor and whatnot, Cleveland Clinic is saying, hey, this works like that. Now, we're not here to dog doctors tonight and things like this, but this is a natural solution for that type of medication, right? Now, we're not telling you if you come and take this protocol to get off all your meds, work with your doctor on that. But this is an awesome fiber. I use in my practice, I've tried many different fibers. Folks, this is the best fiber I've seen in terms of what it does for your gut. So this is one of the tools that we use. The next one comes in the same little type of package. It's called Una Mate, and it works differently. Okay, this is a yerba mate plant extract that comes from South America. It targets metabolism and appetite through plant-based compounds. Okay, it's all natural. and it especially has a compound in there called chlorogenic acid. And chlorogenic acid is a natural polyphenol, okay, that's been studied for its effects on glucose regulation and fat metabolism. This product helps supports our feeling of well-being. We use it in the morning and during our fasting time in the afternoon to basically help with our signaling to say, hey, I'm full. And it does it in a natural way. It supports a healthy cognitive process. It helps us maintain our stamina. So in the afternoons or the mornings when we have those crashes, it helps with the blood sugar control so we don't have those big wild swings. And it helps promote the body ketone production later on when we get later out in our fasting period and time-based eating to help feed the ketones to our brain to make us really feel good. This also helps the body naturally produce up to 67% more GLP-1. Now, I want to be clear, this is not a GLP-1. Our body can do that naturally, so you don't need that poke, okay, that a lot of folks are out there using to lose weight, right? You can use this, get your liver cleaned up, basically, and help do that, and helps us produce that naturally without all those side effects. So 2 products, right, or 2 tools. I like to call them tools because that's how we use them. A fiber matrix that helps us heal and seal our gut, helps us feel more full, helps us bring down things like triglycerides and our cholesterol, helps us heal and seal that gut. And another product that also helps along with this one to help control our blood sugar, feel better, helps us through that fasting period, and helps us produce more GLP-1, and helps overall, as a side effect we talked earlier, helps us get down to a healthy weight. So those are the 2 tools that we use. Very, very simple. And I'm going to then now let Wayne kind of explain how we use this with time-based eating. One thing I want to get here, you've heard us use the word fasting. Don't run, okay? We're not talking about restriction. When the first time I heard about fasting, I was like, I'm out. Fasting was impossible. That's what this product helps us do. It helps us stay in a point where we just don't really think about food, okay? But we're also not talking when we talk about time-based eating, because that's why I like to talk about it, because it's about stretching those periods out where we have spikes in insulin. And with time-based eating, I'm not talking about restriction, about how much food you eat. You won't hear us talking about how much food you used to eat. You'll naturally come to a point where you'll eat less because of the way the product works, right? And you'll start eating more healthy just by the natural way of starting to heal and seal our gut, and you'll start craving those things. So don't get worried if you hear about time-based eating. It's super, super simple. All right, Wayne, if you want to share with us about how easy this protocol is to use, how it works, what's it look like in the day in life of using this system?
Okay. Thanks, Scott. It is, you know, before I get into that, I just want to say, I was, and my wife, how many of us have been on every kind of diet and we're counting calories, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, or we're keto, or, keto friendly diets. I mean, they're just, the realm is so huge. And when we found this protocol, it just is so simple. Like Scott said, it's just a couple of the 2 simple tools we use. So the Unimate that we sip on during the course of the day, what my day, I'll just talk about my day. And the neat thing about this is that you can formulate this to whatever works for you. This is not something strict and, you got to do this, and this. You follow the protocol, try to do what the program calls, and whether how you do it is up to you. So anyway, for me, I get up in the morning. The first thing I do is I mix up my Unimate. I like mine icy cold. Some people like it hot. Personally, I like it icy cold. I'll put it in my bottle here, and then throw some ice in it. Head off to work. I'll sip on that all morning. When I get to work, I'll grab my cup of coffee along with it. So I got my coffee, and I got my Unimate, maybe a bottle of water along with it, and I just sip on that all morning. I don't feel hungry. And then we talk about the time-based eating. Our total goal would probably be to get a to a 16 8-hour window, 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating. Don't turn me off. Don't run away, because I didn't think that was even possible. But there is many, many days now that I'll go 24 hours without eating, only because my body doesn't tell me I need to eat. I'm satisfied, and I'll just keep on going. But let's just say we don't eat breakfast. We've already, I guess I got to back up a little bit. I stop eating when we get done with dinner at night. So, you're done with dinner, and, the kitchen's closed. And so you start your fast right there. Well, you already, by 7 o'clock in the morning, you've already got 12, you already got 12 hours of your fast done. That's what you would normally, you would have that anyway. So now we're just going to try to stretch that window out a little bit, because once you reach a certain age and certain time period, that, your body will flip a switch and say, okay, I've used up all the glucose in my system. I'm going to flip this switch now, and I'm going to start burning fat. Well, when it gets into that mode, when you start sipping on your Unimate, it's kind of like putting gas on the fire. It just boosts that burn, and helps you to burn your fat that much more. When you get ready to break your fast at noon or whatever it is, or you start out, maybe you do 14 hours, maybe you do just 12 hours to start with. But our goal is to stretch that. But when you do break that fast, don't break it with a candy bar. Don't break it with a Pop-Tart or something. You want to break it with a high protein, break your fast with something like that. That way your body can actually keep burning as it goes. So I may have a noon, 2 o'clock. I may have break my fast with some food, and maybe not. A lot of days I just will make up another Unimate, keep sipping on that, and I can go till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But then you get there, you think, well, I might as well go till supper time, because I've learned to listen to my body, and you'll be just totally amazed after a period of time sipping on this program that your body will just naturally change and not crave the food. So I used to eat out of habit, and now I don't eat out of habit so much. My body says I need food, I eat food. If it doesn't, I just keep on going. But then when we come to our evening meal, our largest meal of the day, then we mix, as Scott was talking about, the fiber, the balance, and we mix that up, drink that, guzzle that down. Then, the first one's designed, the Unimate is designed to sip on all day long. The balance we mix up, chug it down all at once, and it coats your stomach. You want to do that because of the pectins and stuff in it. Otherwise, it gets quite thick. Eat your meal, and there again, we're not talking about skimping. It just, you have a good. We eat well. We eat very well. We just don't eat a lot of the junk food anymore. And then you'll go back into, you get done with your evening meal. Now, some people, I have a couple of people that I know that actually doesn't work for them, and so they will eat breakfast and lunch, and they skip dinner at night. And that's such a neat thing about this protocol. There's no restrictions really of how to use it, how not to use it. It's whatever works into your system. And and I guess one thing I'd also like to say, and I think Scott can maybe touch on it a little bit too, but this this balance, this is not nothing new. This has been around for years. It was actually a product. The similar product was called Biofos, owned by Rexall Drugs, and someone bought that. The owner of this company bought that, and he said Big Pharma will never have their hands on this Biofos, because they already knew the possibilities of what this could do to the health industry. So he said they will never own it. So he put his life savings into building this company. America was one of the slowest countries to really get into this protocol, because us Americans, we're kind of lazy, and we just say, give me a pill. Give me a pill. It's much. I don't really want to. I don't want to mess around with things. Just yeah. Oh yeah. I see you there, Alan. And I was that way too. Just give me a pill and I can continue my life. But once you start understanding about insulin resistance and everything like that, you realize that it's all about getting healthy. It's not we're not going to cure anything by covering up with pills and pills and pills. we get to the root cause of the problem, and we don't need the pills, and we feel better. So Americans have been, basically, give me a pill, let me fix everything with a pill. Whereas a lot of these other countries, we're in like 60 different countries, they're more holistic, and they're more holistic thinking, and natural foods, natural things, and yeah, this is going to be, yeah, you may have not heard a lot about it yet, but in the next 10 years, everybody's going to know about insulin resistance and in the field grade system, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you, Wayne. So thank you very much on sharing how you use it. One of the things that you may be setting on here tonight and thinking, well, you know, I'm always on the goal, right? Is it easy to do? I go out and
Uh,
eat, I go out and eat, and things like that. Well, let me just say this: these are small. I put these in my uh, my computer case. I'm always on the go. My family's always on the go. It's made for the family and the people that's on the go. Um, but sometimes, Wayne, you said you use yours at dinner. The balance. We use ours at lunch, depending on what your highest carb, highest loaded meal of the day is. If I put it that way, biggest meal. If you go into a restaurant, use it. Get a glass of water with no ice, stir it up, take a bottle of water with you, shake it. We do this all the time. Sunday dinner, we went out and had Mexican, this Mexican restaurant that we go out and eat. And we all got out our bottles and took it in with us. And we took the water, poured it in our bottles, shook it up, and ate, drank our fiber right before we did that. It doesn't give us the right to just overeat, but what it does is it's so easy to take and use. One other thing I just wanted, before I get into talk about how you get this protocol, you brought up something so important, Wayne, and it kind of goes to the food pyramid that you talked about, Alan, is about our prioritization of our food, right? Prioritizing protein, and then fiber, healthy fats, and then those carbohydrates. And doing that, and it's, if you can eat in that order, that's a good way to do it, because that allows us to lower that glucose spike when we eat. And so pairing that how we eat with this protocol, we can really start to help you improve your metabolic health. Even when sometimes you eat some berries, put a healthy fat or protein like it with nuts or berries or something, and that'll help. So just some kind of little tidbits around how to improve your metabolic health. So let's get into, we've only got about 3 minutes. I want to honor everybody's time about how you get this protocol and how you get and what you do to get it. So tonight, let me go ahead and click in the next transition here. Couple things here, just want to show you. Wayne mentioned Rexall Drug Company. The balance has been around for many years and shown that its effectiveness and what we've done with that. There's 20 plus clinical studies: Cleveland Clinic, Sydney, BYU, Brigham Young, UNLV, Stanford, all kinds of different clinical studies showing the effectiveness of it. There's 5 patents. It's in the PDR. And what that means for you is that PDR.net, that's a physician's desk reference. Your doctor can go in and look at this and see its effectiveness, how it's used. So if you're interested in this and you want to go in and talk to your doctor about it, go right into PDR.net. You can do it online, or you can show them this is what doctors use to prescribe medications. This is not a medication, but it is a nutraceutical. Think of that as a very, very controlled, clean way to take supplements to ensure that you're getting the right doses of the supplement each and every time in a controlled way, so that you're getting an extremely high quality product. It's safe and natural. It has a 90-day money back guarantee. You use this product, the company will and it doesn't work for you, the company will refund your money. It's cost neutral. And what we mean by that is you're not eating breakfast or one of your meals during the day. So you're not necessarily getting up in the morning and drinking that real expensive coffee. If you're on the go, you're reducing the amount of snacking you're doing. Eventually you start reducing the amount you start to eat. So it's only costs about $5.30 a day. But not only that, you're saving between $5 and $10 a day because of the number of the amount of food you're cutting back. So give this, a try. It took us, some of us 10, 15, 20, 30 years, right, to get in the metabolic condition that we are in our healthy, the unhealthy state that we're in, give this a 90-day try. And it's got you can't lose because there's a guarantee behind the product. So what I want to do, if you're interested in that, get a hold of one of these guys that's on here tonight. DM them, reach out to them on their social media accounts. Reach out to me if you know me. If they invited you, get a hold of them. Or if there's others on this live tonight that sent you to this live, get back with them. They'll be able to share it. This is what's really neat about this, is that if you get a hold of one of us, you're locked in at a totally different price than if you went to the website or if you go out to other websites. A huge savings. I think it's about $230, $40 a month if you go out to the normal website. And so you get a locked in price here. And think about it, to change your life for $5.30 a day. That is phenomenal. And not only that, it's backed by a guarantee. Guys, we're at the top of the hour, actually a little bit over. Alan, Wayne, anything else we want to share with folks online tonight or folks that may be watching?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah, no, it's great. You covered it well, Scott. And you've got nothing to lose. If you had nothing to lose and everything to gain, so just give it a shot, and you'll be amazed.
Right.
Well,
we'd just like to thank you for joining tonight. Wayne, Alan, thank you for sharing your story. Always a pleasure to be on with you.
Thanks,
Much
Scott.
love to hear your stories. Thank you for sharing with people out there to help change their lives, to feel great, to feel called. We're here tonight to share this protocol with you. That's why we want to do it. We feel impassioned. I know all three of us are about helping change people's lives. You could have been somewhere else tonight besides sitting here listening to this live, but reach out to one of us or someone that sent you to this live. We'd love to help you.